Hello and welcome back to the NBA DFS Slate Breakdown for Wednesday, March 19th. We're back. We got a giant slate to go over, 11 games. We're going to hop right into it. I'm your host, Tyler Wiemann, and come join us at LionStar. $39.99 per month gets you access to all we do, all the props, all the DFS. You get it all one low price. Now, let's jump into it. Can't waste too much time on this slate because it's going to be a doozy. A ton of information is going to come out throughout the day. This is what we got now. We got Jared Butler, highest owned, 29% at point guard, 5,700. Philadelphia is hurting big time. They have 9 guys probably tonight. Butler's going to have to play. He's at 0.92 fantasy points per minute. He's at 5,700. He's going to play 30-plus minutes, most likely, or right around 30. I get why you have him. I just see so much value on the slate that I don't necessarily need to get too much Jared Butler in what could be a giant blowout. The thing, though, blowouts don't even affect the 76ers that much because they only have 9 guys. One starter has to close the game still. Even in a blowout, there's going to be at least one starter on the court. So it makes some sense to want 76ers. I'm going to have some Butler, but not going hard. Luka, 12K, 23% owned. I'm going to have an absolute ton of Luka, I believe. Just a huge ceiling. At 12K, the chance for 70 is pretty high. Jokic is also very, very interesting. Don't mind either of them, but of the two with price, I'm probably going to have a little more Jokic. Zaya Collier, 5,900, not really getting there too much. Pivot-wise, Cason Wallace, 5,300, 8% owned. I would expect him to start at point guard tonight, and with that, with extra usage of no Jalen Williams, no SGA, he's going to get his work, and I think there's a pretty solid ceiling there. If he's able to hit 30 with those guys on the court, I'm pretty interested with the outlook without those guys on the court. Miles McBride, 6,100, 5% owned, obvious pivot spot for me. Look, in games that stay close, he's playing very big-time minutes. 38, blowout only 32, somewhat close, 34. I think he is playing, 36-plus minutes in most games. Now, this could be a blowout situation, so maybe he doesn't get that full allotment of minutes, but I think it's very interesting that he's going this low-owned in a game in a great matchup. Big ceiling for McBride. I don't mind going here. He's averaging almost 1 fantasy point per minute, and with the minutes that he's playing, I mean, that's almost 6x it is. So he just has to have a good game, and it's looking real good. A good game meaning, a standard deviation above what his normal is type situation. CJ McCollum, 7,300. Trey Murphy's out now as well. This Pelicans team just doesn't have much as far as playmakers out there anymore except for McCollum and Zion. Zion can't do it all. McCollum can't do it all, but McCollum will absolutely do his best to try and help facilitate this offense, and there's a big ceiling at 7,300. He is a guy that can get into the upper 40s, even 60s if he really gets it rolling. So I don't mind having some McCollum. I do think he's going a little under-owned at this price. Point guard on DK. AJ Johnson, 3,500, 30% owned, 29% owned. He's going to get the start again. Going to play solid minutes versus this terrible Utah Jazz team. Makes all the sense in the world to want to go here. Jordan Poole is questionable. If he is out, obviously it's a big boost to the rest of Washington. That's one of the things that, we're not going to know probably when the slate locks that really changes this whole slate. I mean, if you get Washington Jazz, 2 high-paced teams, both playing a lot of their reserves, then, there's could be some big fantasy scores coming out of that game, and it's going to be really hard to project for it prior to all that news coming out. So I think Washington's one we really need to pay attention later in the day as news comes out. Luka, Jared Butler, we covered. On to shooting guard on FanDuel. Aaron Wiggins, 24% owned, 5,600. I'm going to have a ton of him. It's the situation where, he is now probably the number one ball handler on this team. Chet probably plays. Chet's obviously the number one option in this situation, but Wiggins is essentially the 2 or the 1B today. And I think he looks great. I'm going to have a lot of him. I don't think his ownership is too much. Isaiah Joe, 4,400. Another guy that is extremely interesting. I'm probably going to have a decent amount of Joe in this game. I think he probably gets close to 30 minutes. He's had 30 or 33 the last 2 games. 34 versus Portland in another spot where they sat a lot of guys. So I think his minutes are looking real good. And versus this terrible 76ers team, it's super interesting. I don't mind having some Joe. Other pivots, Mikal Bridges, 6,400, just playing a ton of minutes. The only issue here is the blowout factor is there. But if this game stays close into the fourth, you're looking at a guy that's going to score or going to be out there for 38 minutes and gets a good matchup versus Spurs team that's, struggling and playing their young guys. I think Bridges is super interesting. I'm going to have some. I'm going to have a lot of New York today. Just got to remind you, I don't want too many of them in the same lineup. Wallace, we covered. McBride, we covered. Jordan Goodwin, 4,600. He has had 3 straight starts. I think he starts again. And if he does, I'm very interested. If he's not starting, I'm totally out on him. But if he is, I do like it. I think there's a chance that he stays starting. He's at 0.8 fantasy points per minute. Going to play 28, 30-ish minutes because this team's just beat up. And I like his outlook. Can hit the 3 ball. Luke is going to make him open. Don't mind it. Shooting guard. On DK, Joe, Butler, Wallace, we covered them all. Small forward on FanDuel. Aaron Wiggins, KD, and Jalen Martin. KD, 9,500. It's going to be pretty easy to pay up. KD is obviously in a good spot. I personally like Booker much better today than I do like KD. If I get a little KD, I'm fine, but I do think this ownership at 24% is way too high, and I'm probably not getting much there. Jaylen Brown, 3,800. It's this Washington situation. We have him at 22.5 minutes. I think this ownership is probably too high and likely comes down throughout the day. Definitely a little interested in him, but this is another Washington spot I got to watch throughout the day because no idea what's going to happen with them. Terry Eason, 6,700, 6% owned. Terrible spot versus the Orlando Magic. I just don't really ever like going against the Magic, but I still think this price is too low. His ability to get into the mid-30s or 40s or 50s is just too high not to have a little bit of Terry Eason when he's going low owned. I think the ceiling is the real deal and definitely interested. OG Anunoby has had the biggest boost without Brunson, and I'm fine going back here. I'll take this lower ownership just because of this bad game and hope it turns around. Definitely interested in OG. Small forward on DK, Wiggins, Justin Champagny, and Ryan Dunn. Hopefully he is back in the starting lineup. Once again, it's the Wizard spot. We got to talk about a ton. Really no clue what they're going to do, who's in, who's out yet. Just have some inklings. There is no Keyshawn George, and having one of those forward spots out opens up minutes for Champagny, and I think he picks up a few. If he's starting, I'm playing. If he's not starting, I'm not touching him because he'll play 19 minutes. That's kind of how it's been all year long, and he's super interesting as a starter. As a starter, I don't mind the ownership. If he's not starting, I hate the ownership, and I wouldn't touch him then. Ryan Dunn, 3,600. He should start, has started the last 3, really only playing 23, 24 minutes a game, has done way better than he should be. So don't look at this game log and be like, oh my gosh, I got to play him. 35, 29, 28. This team, the Suns, at least is a little bit beat up. There's no Beal, no Allen, so there is room for more minutes for him. I just think the upper end of his minutes are 28, and the most likely is he's still in that 24, 25 range. And ceiling is going to be a lot lower when he's a 0.87 fantasy point per minute guy. I don't mind some Dunn, just not going to go too hard on him. Power forward on FanDuel, KD, Alex Sarr, Chet Holmgren. KD we covered, Alex Sarr 6,600. Dude's been balling lately, in a great spot versus Utah. It makes a lot of sense to want some of him. But I gotta warn you, his minutes are still all over the place. When he plays well, they give him big minutes. When he's not playing as well, the minutes are lower. There's also the chance of him getting in foul trouble. There's a lot of moving pieces with this Sarr spot, but he has been playing extremely well. 1.38 fantasy points per minute over the last 5. He's a top pick. The guy is coming into his own here a little bit. I don't mind some Alex Sarr. I love the variance with him. I do think he's probably going a little over-owned than he really should be, as, you know, the field are catching up to this game logs. But I don't mind a little bit. Not going to go super hard on him. Chet Holmgren, 8,200. I will probably play a ton of him if he's playing in this matchup versus the 76ers. I mean, he's the 1A right now. So, pivot-wise, Jaren Jackson Jr., 9% owned versus Portland. I was all over him in the Sacramento game. He got into crazy foul trouble and played less than he should have. Still got 31 minutes, though. So, for those people, you know, worried about his minutes, I think that's kind of out the window now, and that he's good to go and play big-time minutes. So, very interested in Jaren Jackson with no jaw. The ceiling is just giant, and it's a decent spot for him versus Portland, who they've been playing really good, but we're still looking at a 236 total and 4.5 point spread. Very interesting. Eason, OG, we talked about. Let's get on over to the power forward spot on DK. Wiggins, Durant, Kenrick Williams. Kenrick at 3,200 is very interesting. He could start, but outside of the game where, you know, they just sat everybody, outside of those games, he rarely gets big minutes. So that is my worry about him. Even if he is starting, which he could be, I just don't see a real path to him playing those big time minutes, and that's what scares me. 3,200, I understand why you want to play him. If he gets 20 minutes, he likely at least is around value, so not a ton of risk, but looking at upside here, it's really hard to see giant upside, and that's my issue with him. And center on FanDuel, Alex Sarr, Chet Holmgren, Tristan Vucevic, we got to talk about here a little bit. I think he's a little interesting with George out. I think there's the chance that he sees his 22, 24 minutes. Potentially could start alongside Sarr, which would be kind of interesting, but he's been 1.24 fantasy point per minute. So if he's starting with Sarr on the court, maybe that is a little bit lower because they'll eat into each other a little bit as far as, you know, rebound numbers and whatnot. But I think you got to realize this guy has been a very efficient fantasy scorer and could see some extra minutes. So he's a little interesting. Don't like him as much on FanDuel as I would on DraftKings because of the fact there's only one center spot, but he's power forward and center eligible, so it does make me a little interested there. Jalen Williams, 4,300. If anything happens where Hartenstein or Chet is out, Jalen Williams is going to look super, super interesting, and his ownership is going to be through the roof, but he'll be interesting. Pivot-wise, Jaren Jackson. We talked about Cat, 9,700. As I said, I've been all over the the Knicks. all day long, and we're staying with it. I literally think I have liked every single Knicks. I do like Hart. I know we haven't talked about him. I just don't like him as much with his price. I think Cat's in a great spot here and going to play solid minutes. And we haven't seen that blow up game without Brunson there. But he's at like 1.5 or 1.45 fantasy points per minute without Brunson out there. Then you get a good spot versus the Spurs, who have just been getting crushed from centers lately. I think it's super interesting to go Cat. The ceiling is there. He can hit his 60s or 70. So very interested in some Cat. Jackson Hayes, 5,100. Luka out there, no LeBron and no Rui is very positive for Hayes. He's at like 1.09 fantasy points per minute in that situation and playing extra minutes. 28, 29, 33, 24, 26 the last 5, averaging 28 a game in not the best spot ever, but we need more people. Or not the best spot ever, but they're going to need him on the court versus Jokic. I am very interested in some Jackson Hayes here. And getting on over to center on DK. Durant, Kenrick, Chet. Got to throw out Tristan Vucevic, only 3,800 over here on DK. Way too cheap. If he plays 24 minutes, he will absolutely crush. And you should probably have a ton of him there. He is only center eligible here, but at least you have the utility, so it's not locking you into only one center on the night. And that will do it for us today, guys. Hope you guys have a good one. We will be back with more tomorrow, and I will see y'all later. Peace.